So, what do you think of big projects? You see them all the time on YouTube now. I've been considering doing a bigger project for a while now. And most of my build is comprised of maybe like a couple thousand blocks at most. Which is, not many. Well, I wanted to actually change that. Another thing about this episode was supposed to be actually the 3,000 days video, but I realized after a while that was just kind of stupid. I really just don't vibe with that. So we're not doing that. Instead, this video is just going to be going over just some other builds that we've done since day 2000, and also the big thing on the thumbnail. What was that big thing? I'll get to it later. But firstly, I actually decided to get rid of this old market. After that, I got started on the new storage. Why do I need new storage? For a third time? Well, here's the thing about the new storage. It's really not that much better than the old storage. It's just more space and more sophisticated. But really, it's not much better. It's kind of just more bulk storage. Kind of why I've just used both it and the old storage at the same time. So I wanted to get another new storage. This time, I wanted it to be automated. However, I made a big mistake. I used this random schematic I found online without checking it first. Yeah, you can already see how this is doomed. But anyway, I needed to clear a massive space for it. I drained a lot of water by hand. I should have just used redstone. And eventually, I got the news that copper golems are being added after all. Since copper golems are being added, and because they're actually really good for sorting stuff, the entire system, the entire expensive, dumb system that I was working on is worthless. So really, it was just a big waste of time. Okay, we're already about 2 minutes in. That went really fast. But honestly, I've been meaning to make my videos faster anyways, so it's fine. Anyways, so because I actually delivered that section so fast, you might think that we're only about like 30 days or so into the video. We are 100 days into this video already. According to my notes at this point, it's roughly day 2100. So a lot of stuff has actually happened in between then. I was mostly just paraphrasing for time, but I'll go into depth on some of the details now. One of the things I needed for the failed storage was a lot of hoppers. But here's the problem. My old iron farm is a piece of shit. The reason it's a piece of shit is because, well, I built actually in episode 4, and I did not use a tutorial, and it functioned. It produced way too little iron, and when I actually did need a lot, I did not have enough stockpiled. Instead, for some reason, it actually mostly produced glowing. Because that, I needed a new iron farm, so I made one. And I don't know why I made this big design. It actually works too well. But my old design didn't work well enough. The new one works too well. The new iron farm is very helpful, but it produces too much iron. I really need to expand the storage of that farm, honestly. Anyway, I figured now because I didn't really want to work on the storage that at this point had pretty much failed, I decided that I would actually get started on the new market. And I decided this one would be right in the town square just to give it a little bit more life. I first made the new mine entrance, which, it's pretty good. It no longer relies on a weird bubble system. Now you just fly up and down. I also made this pond. I promise I didn't die trying to fly into it. Finally, I got started making the actual new stalls all around. And honestly, I think this made the whole area just so much more lively. I even put some trucks back there. Pretty cool. There was one more touch though that I wanted to add, that being newspapers. But I wanted to do it with map art, and that was going to require a lot of blocks. So I created a schematic and imported it into the Flatworld, and built it somewhere far away. It was mostly white concrete, and then some colored concrete on top, which created the actual newspaper. The carriage itself is being carried by 2 horses, Asshole and Basshole. Those named horses are Peak. I will not be taking any questions. Also, yes, I know I spelled homeless wrong, but quite frankly, I do not care enough to fix it. Though in my mind, if there was a mail carriage or something, then the mail had to be coming from somewhere. And I noticed this conveniently empty spot near my storage building that I also constructed at some point. I threw together this building, but the roof looked like shit at first, so I had to redo it. Oh no, I think it looks pretty good, actually. Maybe not like a mail building, but still, it looks pretty good and it fills into space. Farms. They're pretty normal early on. However, at the moment, I actually get all my food from trading with villagers. Very expensive, very pricey, very villager, very emerald. I needed some automatic farms. I used to have like a big one actually, just manual farm behind my house. I constructed it a while ago. Here's the thing, the farm sucked. In the end, it also just got in the way of actually good projects. So in the previous episode, I just blew it all to hell. Very satisfying. However, I now don't have a source of crops. And I figured, you know what? Everyone else seems to be making these automatic farms with like villagers and shit. Should probably do some of them myself. So that's what I did. I did 2 automatic farms, one for carrots and one for potatoes. I put them all in the same big gray box. Alright, welcome back to an OBS recording. I don't do these that often on this world now. I believe, yep, it's day 2199. I spent the last 200 days just kind of trying to make this like main town area, like the town square, I guess, and also just this part of the city in general feel much more filled in. Even now, there's still like a lot of like blank areas, like all this is gonna need like a build at some point. And actually, all of that's gonna need to be drained. So we still have a lot of work to do, but that's fine. So if any of you remember episode 10, I believe it was, for that one, originally I wanted to do like a bunch of like, I guess, like real estate stuff, but I ended up doing this instead. I got started on the memories project and completed the first out of 10 memories. The portal, as I label it, is for, I guess, like time travel or something. Oh, it's kind of weird. Anyway, here's the actual like main hub. And again, as you can see, at the moment, only one memory is actually done, that being the Krakow memory. This is what I worked on in episode 10. And it took about 300 days or so to complete. Did I not properly light this place? So yeah, this was the first memory we did for the memories project. Oh, that's right. I didn't light this all up because there's too many Now, for some reason, at the time, I thought, why don't I try caving out all this? Honestly, I really didn't need to do that. It was kind of stupid. Anyway, the first memory is kind of just buried under this big mound of dirt. I think eventually the terraforming that will eventually be up here, I'll make it into like something kind of cool. But for now, it's just a big mound of dirt. There's a village, and at that village, I'm gonna lay down the schematic for what's probably going to be a really massive project. Because we're working on the second memory. A while back, I was invited to play Flatpixel's Haunted Hunt, which was, he's a number Super YouTuber, and he was inspired to make his Haunted Hunt by Decked Out 2 from Hermitcraft. Very cool, very fun. I had a lot of fun playing Haunted Hunt, and that inspired me to make my own minigame on my Flatworld. And I figured, so you know what? That's going to be the big project for 3,000 days. Of course, there's some other side projects mixed in here and there. And I think there's no overtime to get started than day 2200. It is day 2200, and today, I want to lay down the schematic that I've been working on this past week on. Actually, I think 2 weeks now, maybe. So here we go. Manhattan Mayhem. No mechanics. Oh my god, there's going to be so many blocks. As you can see, this build is going to be massive. Holy shit. Yeah, it's called Manhattan Mayhem No Mechanics. That's because, at least for this video, I want to get the version with no mechanics done, so that way we have something to work with when we do implement all the mechanics for Manhattan Mayhem. What followed this recording was a very long session of just collecting the 120,000 blocks we were going to be needing for this project. It was not very exciting, but just know, I figured for your enjoyment, I would just not record it. You're welcome. Anyway, the first step first involved placing down, I guess, the canvas of the project. The first part of building the project involved placing a lot of stone and a lot of slabs. This was just so everything had a nice spot to sit on. After that, I put down the walls. I think cyan concrete powder was the one block I needed the most of it in this entire project. Now is probably a good time to explain how Manhattan Mayhem was actually going to work. While Haunted Hunt was more like a, not really sure how you describe it, but you gathered shit, put it somewhere, and then you escaped. I wanted Manhattan Mayhem to be combat focused. So with that in mind, this actual first functional area was supposed to be where the player got their gear that they would have when playing the minigame. And then it was time to make the first of 3 levels. Since it's New York City, I figured I would choose 3 locations for 3 levels. The first level though was not really any particular notable location, that's why it's just called Outskirts. Getting this level right the first time was also incredibly important since it would define the building style I would use for the rest of the build. Something else I wanted to experiment with level 1 was lights that turned on during the night, but not during the day. Just as a little, I don't know, something that was cool. I mean, it did look cool, but I only did it for a small part of the build in the end. Finally, it was time to add in all the remaining details and also the glass roof. This was very simple. Level 2 was intended to be Times Square, or at least it was loosely based on it. Obviously, because of limited space, it's a little bit abstract, but honestly, I think it generally captured the vibe of Times Square, kinda. I don't know, it's one of my favorite part of the build personally. I think it looks really cool. I designed this level in particular the way I did because I thought it would be cool if you went, firstly, enter a seemingly normal part of the city, just to go around and find somewhere with actual colors and also big trucks. I'll explain those later. Don't be killed or you will die. The last level, level 3, was supposed to be where you would see the Statue of Liberty. It was while I was designing this in a creative world, it actually ran out of room and I had to expand the building area. Very big. The Statue of Liberty itself though, I needed a tutorial for because I'm stupid. Otherwise, it's a pretty simple level, but it's pretty nice I guess. I mean, I got some good screenshots of it.
Alright, it's day 2368. I'm not gonna lie. This big thing here, at this point, I mean, without mechanics, it's pretty much done. Well, you know, if we ignore the fact that literally there are 0 mechanics right now, and it's literally just at the moment, it's just really nice to walk through. Can the shaders? Okay, thank you. Like right now, it's just really nice to walk through. And don't get me wrong, I'm proud of what I've achieved so far. I mean, this is amazing. However, I'm actually done like way ahead of schedule. Actually, I think this part of the build looks better with a different shader pack. Let me see. Performance, it's still not really fantastic. Ooh, water's nice. Ooh, that looks cool. Like colorful reflections, I really like that. That's cool. Actually, if I remember correctly, this like level in particular took the longest, just because it has most details. I think this last one didn't take that long. I finished in like a couple hours. I might need to add more lights to this level in particular. And around like the coast here, I'm pretty sure like during the night, like mobs can still spawn there, which is funny because I made a lot of effort to actually like make this place mostly mob proof. That's why there's redstone lights in the floor. Anyway, you may have noticed the 2 little entrances kind of dotted around here. Like here, yeah, let me turn these off. There and also here. That is supposed to be the entrance to the kind of like big mini game we got here. However, now we've got a little pickle. Because see, at first, you know, I wanted this to be like combat themed. And I need to kill all the mobs in one level to proceed to the next. Or at least you need to kill enough, I guess. I don't know. Anyway. At first I wanted to try and do something with raids. And I did a lot of testing with raids in this level in particular, because it was the only one I had done at the time in my creative world. And I was trying to get like figured out, but yeah, no, raids just won't work.
If you're wondering about what I was rambling about there, I was trying to figure out how I was going to get the actual mechanics to work, because I know I wanted this to be combat themed, but so far I was struggling to figure out how I was going to actually implement that. I experimented with a lot of systems and I kind of got something figured out, but there's one crucial flaw that makes this entire minigame broken. I eventually figured out how to make this sort of mob dispenser system that would go into each level. Level 3 actually had 2 of these. And they would dispense zombies, and you would have to kill enough zombies, which would get you some rotten flesh, which you had to put into these fucking garbage bins, which would then give you a banner that you could then open up the door with. I was short about this. However, I realized something. Because of that big ass fucking glass roof, getting the zombies in there is gonna be a pain in the ass. And then having them live long enough for the player to actually, play the minigame, they're gonna have even less time. In fact, I did the math, and it's only gonna be about 7 minutes that you can actually play the game, kind of. And then you're gonna have to wait again for it to be night. It doesn't work. But again, I already experimented with raids in my creative world. Those don't work either. So what do? You do nothing. That's the blunt version of this. You don't do anything. This is the part where I realized this entire video, I was building up to something that I didn't even realize was basically impossible for survival. That was a very painful realization. At this point, I had already decided I was not going to go to day 3000 in this video, just like to day 2500. But ultimately, I thought maybe I would still get the version with mechanics built anyway. I mean, I can get the blocks very easily for it, but I'm going to be honest, I really don't want to. I just don't want to. At this point, I need to better manage my time. If I'm going to do that, then I need to actually go on to other projects that are more worth my time. And if all this build's cool, continuing something that I know is not functional is not a good use of my time. Now, this could be where the video ends. However, this is a good time to remind you that my Flatworld has a lot of lore. Like, a lot. If you didn't notice earlier, this newspaper is dated to 3024. So yes, my world has at least 1,000 years worth of lore in it. And throughout the series, I've been explaining bits and pieces of it. And if you don't want to hear any lore, then you can just click off now. However, if you do want to hear the lore for this build, then stick around. Sometime in the 2430, a country known only as the United States Reclamation Authority at this point had been ostracized by its neighbors because of its extreme militarism. The United States Reclamation Authority was, of course, the continuation of the United States government following a nuclear apocalypse in the year 2024. By the 2430s, it had reclaimed much of the East Coast. However, it was still missing something very noticeable: the Big Apple. Of course, New York, since independence, has managed to become a regional economic power that dominates trade. However, in the eyes of the United States Reclamation Authority, New York is a key part of the United States. Actually, the USRA originally wanted to take over the Midwest. However, because of political issues, they decided to redirect their attention to New York. The Reclamation Authority gathered up its forces and soon launched a full-scale invasion. New York State itself was pretty quickly taken, and soon, what was left of an independent New York was just folded back into United States Reclamation Authority, which over the years would continue to expand and expand and expand until it reached where it is by 3024. It could grow bigger, maybe it'll shrink, who knows. Anyway, that wraps up this video. I do hope you all enjoyed it. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe. It really helps out the channel. And I'll see you all next time. My name is Volton. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.